In a small village of Yamura, a man wakes up in the care of Aruru, an apprentice healer with a strange mask stuck to his face and forgotten memories. He's confused and injured. Once better, Ururu's grandmother, the chief of the village, lends him her deceased son's clothes, making him unusually resemble him. As he heads out with Aro's assistance, he explores, growing curious, seeing others appear different from him and have animal features. Impulsively he touches Ururu's tail, making her go beet red and pushing him. Embarrassed, the two meet the jolly Taira and his wife, learning about the village and the recent earthquake it faced while taking a break. Nwangi, Aru's childhood friend and son of the king's younger brother, makes rounds gathering the hefty yearly tribute. He's grown to be obnoxious, often speaking ill of his birthplace Yamura. Upon seeing Iraru, he forces her to go with him, trying to seduce her with luxuries. However, the man protects her, declaring her family and causing Nwangi to go crazy. Jealous and his friends at East Mash is one of the holy shrines in the forest. Awakening the forest guardian Madakapa at Iraris, the man has still not regained his memories and feels the strange heat sickening him again. Unknown to them, the Muti Kappa enrages outside. Nuani's recklessness has led the village into chaos. Even after repairing the shrine, the Muti Kappa continues to attack, killing the innocent villagers. Refusing to sit idle, a man rushes up to the beast as Aruru tearfully follows. Luckily they are saved as the beast retreats. Once it rains back at the cheeks, the village mourns. The man enters, revealing that the beast repulses being wet and volunteers to defeat it. The following day, together with Terror and the villagers, he lures the Mutakappa into a trap filled with water, impaling her to death. The group, under his leadership and plan, restores peace, returning victorious. Surprisingly, they find an erratic Aro searching for her missing little sister Aruru. To everyone's relief, they find her with a bulge on her stomach, claiming it's her baby. However, out falls a small Michikappa kitten. Seeing that it's just a cub, the man reasons that small lives are pure, convincing the village to readily accept the little cat. With the village rejoicing and celebrating his bravery, the chief finally gives him a name, Hakuro, the name of Aro's and Aruru's father. Hakuro blends well, helping villagers with his medicinal knowledge. One night after the chief sheltered a group of battle-torn men, Aruru worriedly wakes Hakuro up, telling that grandma has gone missing. While searching, Hakuro is ambushed by swordsman Oboro and his two minions. Just as he intends to kill him, grandma suddenly shows up, scolding Oboro. She informs Hakuro that she had willingly left to help Oboro's sister Yuzufha in his secretive village. Much to Oboro's dislike, the chief brings Hakuro along and arrives at the village tending to Yuzuba, a poor little sickly blind girl. While grandma has a word with Oboro, Hakuro and Yuzuha get familiar, making friends. Later on they return back to Iraru, and in the morning the villagers strangely receive a load of replenishing cargo secretly paid by Oboro and his village. However, it's not long before the chief is called again. Hakuro and her arrive to see Yusuf fighting for life. Luckily they manage to help using an expensive medicine. However, Yuzuha will relapse again and again, meaning the medicine ever more. To gain more funds, Oboro resorts to stealing from the lords mansion, coming across the samurai general of Incalabana, who injures him well. In the morning, while playing with the Mutakappa cub, Aruru and Hakuro find the collapse. Oboro, once better with their care, Oboro is indebted to Hakuro and leaves. Nuanga returns, this time with his father of Lord Sasanta. Loudly they accuse the village of sheltering the thief. As the hassle intensifies, one of the soldiers gravely injures the chief as the lord runs away, scared of the tiny Mukappa cub. Worried, the village gathers while Aruru and Aruru desperately try to save their grandma. However, she's aware that her time's up, leaving her granddaughters with Hakuro. She sadly passes away. Hakuro soon delivers the news to Oboro, who grows enraged at himself for bringing such a calamity and leaves to confront the lord himself. Meanwhile, the mourning villagers, knowing well of Hokuru's character, ask him to succeed the late chief. Seeing the villagers, the sheltered soldiers and Oboro's minions all stand in unison at the decision. Hokuru accepts under him. The men leave to join Oboro. Infuriated villagers break into the mansion, wreaking havoc as Oboro's chained below. Freeing himself, he joins Hokuru and the villagers. Together they attack Sasantia, who cowers like a dog, yelling for his son. However, Hokuru stabs him swiftly with the blade fan the chief herself had bestowed him. Meanwhile, Nwani flees enraged at Hokuru as the mansion falls to villagers. It seems like Banewi the samurai withheld backup victorious. The Village is now at the mercy of the imperial court. They will surely come after them, anticipating the imperial army's arrival any time. The village prepares for the clash as Mukuru grows hungrier than usual, even frustratedly fumbling with Ururu and leaving her almost bare-chested. Bad Kitty. Even Oburo arrives with Yuzu of being indebted to Hakuro. He declares him his brother and joins with his people to prepare for the battle as Aruru and Aruru make friends with Yusuf. Oburo reveals that it was used of his wish to come here. Later on, Aruru and Hakuro find a doubtful Aruru hiding something, pulling her aside. They find Mukuru munching on the stalks, now a massive Mirakappa. Soon Hakuro and Oburo explore for villages to ally with, coming across the deadly scene of an innocent village torched to ash. Binally and his men emerged from the smoke, immediately admitting a clash as Hakuro battles banally and Oburo with Benoit's right hand. Kuru on the brink of defeat. Aurora erupts as Mukuru and Aruru spring, defending Hikaru. Stunned seeing Amutakappa, Benoit decides to retreat, but not before acknowledging Hakuru. Back at the imperial court, Banaway kneels before the king as he selfishly summons Muwanji, putting him in charge instead with Nwani as the new head general. He's being a literal pain in the ass, insulting Kuru Vanoway's right hand into joining him, only to scatter off when faced with brute strength. Meanwhile, Hakuro, Oburo and Taro have been gathering allies, with more villages joining them at the news of Ben Ali torching one. As they sit chatting, Urbaru brings in an awkward man claiming to be a frequent merchant at the mansion. Clumsily he showcases his goods, even presenting a not so appropriate item to Aruru before being escorted out by Hakuro. On his way he suspiciously changes his demeanor, brandishing a dagger and mentioning the expensive medicine Oburo searches for before returning to his clumsy self. Out at the checkpoints, Benali and Kuru are alerted within the shadows. The same merchant appears, passing information to Benawai. However, a survivor from the checkpoint stumbles at Hakuro's, making the villagers even more angered. Hakuro launches an attack and is surprised upon finding Ben Ali and Kuru there, although it seems as if Benoit would triumph. However, as more villagers joined Hakuro, banally once again retreats. Defeated at the imperial court, Benya shoved into dungeons for returning vanquish and questioning the king's reckless attacks on innocent villages as Nwanji takes reigns. Hakuro's forces strengthen, speedily taking over the country, and now confident to break into the imperial city. Unknown to them, Huwanji has joined the stupid king's reckless antics of battering all villages, even innocent ones, so they don't stand against him. While Hakuro visits Yuzuha, Oburo rushes with the news headed by Muwanji. The imperial forces are about mass slaughter when Hakuro's men sprint onto them, making their forces cowardly retreat. However, the idiots sure drop their own commander behind. Fallen off his pedestal, Nuang is captured. The rats finally found, tied and ready to be beheaded, and Huwanji is still a pain. Lucky for him, Hakuro lets Iaruru take the decision and the sweet girl frees him. Now stronger than ever, Hakuro's forces confidently invade the imperial city and wreak mayhem. Kura rushes to the dungeons, freeing Benawai. Avoiding Hakuro, Benali goes to the king, raising his blade to slay him as the lewd king begs, reasoning there are so many women to play with. Just as Hakuro enters, Benoit kills the king, placing the blade on his own neck before Hakuro swats it away, refusing for him to end. Together the two walk out, announcing the fall of the emperor as the people erupt, rejoicing with the dawn of a new empire. Hokuro is crowned king. Soon the Onkami Yamukai arrive, mediators from the temple of Witzel Namida, the people's god, as representatives of the temple. Princess Oratori and a temple teacher Muto arrive at the new kingdom, meeting Hakuro and Benali. They put forward the proposal of friendship and act in the future as their mediators. The two were shown around by Aruru, whom the princess mistakes were Hakuro's queen. Meanwhile, Hakuro, while on a break, comes across another winged on Kamehameha, later finding her asleep in his bed. Sensing the familiar aura, Oratori enters, catching her and informing Hakuro that she's her little sister Chemist, who had followed her with his good heart. Hakuro allows her in, and soon Chemist blends together with Aruru and Yuzuha, making friends and playing till exhausted. Seeing the kingdom happy and satisfied themselves, the Ankama Yamukai soon leave, certain of their new friendship with the kingdom of Tuskar. Hakuro has done well, however all kingdoms do not happily accept the new kingdom of Tuskar, and soon a hostile message is sent from New Wei, the emperor of Shikar Pikamit demands Tuskar to be ruled under them or to fall battle in them. With the best of his character, Hakuro tries to settle Yun, scolding Oburo, who's Always quick with his anger and protective of his brother Hakuro, but despite Hakuro receiving the envoys respectfully and peacefully, new attacks Tuska's checkpoints alarming Hakuro. Now serving Hakuro banally soon gathers forces lining the fort and preparing for the attack. Nua's parties soon march onto them with Karu and Banali fending them off. Meanwhile, together with his minions, Oboro secretly infiltrates the fallen castle as Hakuro overlooks. Waiting for his plan to go in action, he finds Aruru and Iraru to have followed him. Soon the castle goes ablaze with the concoction bursting and Miu's forces are trapped. Hakuro marches onto them, defeating the masses as Moen himself shows up face to face. Nuer warns that he shall meet him again before retreating. One night as the sea rages under the thunderous weather, a trafficking ship is caught in the waves. Abandoning the abducted sailors flee, not before a rabbit girl, one of the seas, escapes as well, killing all the sailors ashore. By the time Hakuro's forces arrive, they find bloodshed and the collapsed girl. Bringing her in, they lock her up, but the girl Karula breaks through, showing up before Hakuro. Her skills surely please Karu, however Hakuro receives her warmly, asking Eru to tend to her injuries. Being her clever self, Karula easily decodes Iruru's love for Hakuro, making her blood red. Upon Eru's requests, Karula's allowed out and adjusts quite well, avoiding Kuro's failed advances, brazenly drinking sake in broad daylight and making friends with Oratory herself for her skills. Akira decides to give her command, but not before Benoit assesses her. The soldiers gather as the two faces each other. Kurula is not an easy opponent, but Benoit is still a hailed samurai and comes out victorious. However, she fought skillfully, accepting command. Karula orders her weapon, an extremely massive sword that even breaks Kiro's sweat, but the goblin woman lifts it easily, leaving everyone dumbfounded. At last Kirula has found an abode out of shackles, with the threat of Nude attacking any minute. Hakuro seeks alliances with other countries, having Oratory act as the mediator. While at an official gathering for Seal in the alliance, and exasperated Tiro enters, call in for Hakuro and yelling that Yameur is under attack. Sliding down the post he's leaning on, the jolly Tiro passes away, joining his wife and others of fallen Yamura. Outside, Hakuro finds the enemy right upon his door and defeats them, realizing that it's not Niwa's forces but Kukakechans. The soldiers strangely seem almost trance into madness. Hakura himself is speechless. It seems that the situation is connected to Hakuro's past, which he does not remember. You must have committed something so grave as to turn the people of Kochikecha into maniacs, and hatred for him. With no luck in mediating and receiving a dying messenger back, Hakura decides to attack. Together Hakuro's forces march onwards on their way. Miyakura senses something odd, and within a second Hakuro's surrounded by the maniac forces. A strange girl Tuka and a man claiming to be Hakura's brother-in-law aim to slay him. They call him Raxhane. The man, Lord Orkaken, claims Hakuro's identity is of an evil man, Raxhane, who had ruthlessly killed his people, wife, even his children dead, set to not let him survive. In the name of justice, Wan Tuka's advice, Orkaken decides to retreat as Hakuro himself returns back stunned. He's tired to the bow and collapses into sleep, having strange nightmares of being surrounded by those he must have killed. Meanwhile, Oboro scouts the area for the opponent forces when he once again comes across Tuka. However, she is alone and he combats solitary only to lose. Heading back, Tuka gives him the message that justice shall win. Gathering willpower, Hakuro once again marches for the enemy with his troops, who owned for an integral bridge used by them. At the mouth of it they are met with Tuga, but manage to overpower her till she stands alone. Despite Hakuro asking her for clarity, she maintains that he's an evil man. Her unrelenting behavior leads Karula to combat her and slash the bridge off as Tuka collapses into the ditch with it. However, the situation is too intense for poor Hakuro and he falls under tremendous trance-like stress, wondering who he really is. Aruru is worried, seeing the man who she's known to be selfless and brave, doubting his unknown past as the news of Lord Orikakan and Tuka, an Evan Culver warrior of justice, makes rounds. Hakuro's peoples grow uneasy, questioning if he's a good man. Hacker was immensely demoralized, making Karula push Arurud to take advantage of the situation and console the sad man to love. However, without motive, Aruru hugs Hakuro, easing and assuring him he'll always be supported and loved by her as Hakuro and never. Raxhane feeling a bit better, Hakuro has some leisure time fooling around with Aruru, Miyakuru and Iraru, but doesn't last long. Hakura's forces gather back and soon they head out to face the Kikakechans. Entering the battlefield, Hakuro's forces once again clash with the enemy on motive. Hakuro withdraws, making Orikaken and Tuka follow him. Once alone, Orikaken prepares to kill him, but Hakuro smashes him to the ground, demanding to be told of his past. Sprawled Orikaken taunts him for being evil, and Hakuro, who strangely starts feeling unstable, his body heating up. Upon seeing Hakuro heating up, Organ's demeanor changes as he gets terrified. Before Kakuro can react, an arrow flies through Orikan's throat, killing him right there. Its new cackling Miwa calls a Hakuro, saying he purposefully agitated the Kakakechans against him before riding away. Although returned safely with his troops, Niwa is preparing for much mischief. Niwa has launched attacks on the villages of Tusker left and right, trying their level best to incite. Oboro and Kuru are clearly irritated. However, Hakuro has caught on to Niwa's antics and chooses to strengthen border defense instead of invading Chikripakam. Earnestly, Hirako asks Oboro and others to trust his plan, as Niwa on the other hand greedily awaits Hakuro to transform into his true beast. He wants to acquire him with effectively defending borders. Miwa decides to advance offensively. He gathers his elite troops in something more. Together with them he marches into Tusker, burning and killing all villages and innocents they come into contact with ruthlessly and with no remorse. With the chaos growing extreme, decides on a very risky plan to allow Niwa's forces into Tusker until Shikirapacham is drained of its cavalries, and then invade the castle at Shikarpesham, taking Miwa's head for now. As they battle, surprisingly Tuka joins them for being indebted to Hakuro for releasing her and paying respect to Orikaken's body. Together Hakuro's forces once again drive the enemy to borders with thousands of innocent lives fallen. Hakuro decides to leave the troops under Banali and invade Shakir-Pesham to kill Niwa himself. On the border a massive army of Shikar Peshan awaits, making Banawi desperately counts on Hakuro. Meanwhile, Hakuro smashes into Niwa's castle, with Karula being her cocky self handling the three elite warriors of New Tuka and Aruru advance inside. Within the castle, Aniwa unleashes his trump card onto them. Armored men turned into soulless zombie-like maniacs. Cackling Mayu reveals that they are elite soldiers from his invasions turned maniacs by triggering the beast in them. However, the beast he wishes to acquire the most is Hakuro. As Kerala enters, providing much needed backup, Hakuro and Aruru go after Niwa. However, the madman Mayoi sets his own country on fire, burning his own people to trap Hakuro from escaping. Seeing you as madness the beast and starts erupting. Enraged, she goes after Newell alone, as the mental king seems to almost drooling at the sight of his beast breaking through. Pushed to the brink, transforms into an unsightly being, shredding Niwi to threads of flesh. He stands stricken at the sight of his own work. The rain pours down as Hakuro steps out victorious among the seas of bodies. Tusker has won again, but at what cost? What has it awakened? The war and his horrors melt away as the country begins restoring itself. Hakuro even sends for help to re-establish the government at Kakakaka. For his kind gesture, Tuka has become one of Hakuro's loyal comrades. Peace once again allows children to play carelessly. Of course, Aruru and Makuru now join with the mischievous Kerala to resume their plundering of food stocks. That's before they're caught red-handed. Though among all the bliss, however, Hakuro is silently suffering. Nightmares of the faithful burning war keep returning to him as Niwi taunts him of the beast. He is one sleepless night he comes across Camus strangely drinking, constantly unable to quench her thirst. He worries, but Oratora hurriedly takes her away, unaware he's being spectated by a strange man unable to face his misery of the events at Shikharapacham and decide for the survivors of it. Hakuro returns to the ruins as he stands berating himself. Aru once again makes him hopeful for the coming tomorrow. East, he lets the survivors return and rebuild their ruined homeland. Once again wandering at night, he again finds Camus playing around with something unworldly when a strange man reveals himself, introducing himself as Genjimaru. He takes Hakuro to meet his ruler and out steps a veiled person, Kuya, the ruler of Kanikum. On meeting Hakuro, Kuya immediately reveals that he's had an investigation done on him and knows a lot. However, he's curious as to how led such small people to huge rebellions and take big empires, wondering if he has powers due to being a Kanaitai. Seeing Hakuro confused, he explains that Kunaites are under the divinity of God on the Tekkan, the true god who was overthrown by Witzel Nemeda, the god of misfortune. With Hakuro pondering over the news, his land is quite blissful. One day Hakur was presented with a rare creature, Makam, a creature thought to be able To cure all illnesses immediately Oboro wills to buy it for Yuzuha, seeing the Bora so serious as to get it for Yuzuwa. Hakuro buys it for him and immediately Era renames it Gachitira. Later Oboro drunkenly thanks Hakuro before his minions take him away. Hokuro returns to meet Kuya talking again. He embarrassingly listens to more information about him, particularly about having lots of women. He isn't even aware of himself. That's when Kuli removes the veil, showing herself she's a beautiful girl, not a boy. Akuro and his friends sick feasting, and they are delivered a message regarding the rebellion moves of slaves in Medtuk led by Delahari. It seems to have caught Carula's eye. That night she enters Hekuro's quarters all dressed, requesting him to help the rebels of Natuk. Upon accepting, she stands up to Hakuro's astonishment, removing her attire to pay him back. That is not what I thought. Repayment is worse. They are caught by Iruru herself. Surely Hakuro gets a serious silent treatment in the following days. In addition to the chaos, Hakuro is abducted by Kirula and Oratori and the whole platoon including Aruru, Camus, Yuzuha, Tukumyakuru and Gakudara decides to go on the journey. On their way, Ururu and Hakuro luckily clear misconceptions just before they are surrounded by Delahori and his troops. It turns out he's Kurula's brother, unaware that she's his sister. At night, as she reconciles with Katamar, fires waft from Delahir's settlement. Immediately Hakuro's friends assail Natok's attack, fending them off, but Delivery is not pleased with the assistance. It is a lesson from Carula, but the boy is quite stone-headed. However, dismissing Delihara Katamabas, asking Carula and her friends to help in the rebellion. Now with added help, Delaora advances on Nitook's troops, coming out victorious, although he's a bit irritated by the experience and wise fighters Hokuru and his friends are. He soon grows up to them. From her past, Carula remembers an underground route via waterway into the castle, hence they decide to break in from the underways while Deliaore's troops fight outside. As Hakuro and the rest get into the castle shocked, they are met with the sight of thousands of Laromanio new blossoms growing from human bodies. As a madman, the ruler of Matuk Sankesu sits on his throne surrounded by them. Upon seeing Carula, he calls her real name Carol Lastir, leaving Delihor ajar from realization. Declaring his love for her, he reveals that he he'll chaos only for her to return. Charging Karula and Delaora kill Sankesu, but before Delaora can get a chance to reunite with his sister, he's hurried off to help the rest of the men. Days later, Delahor visits Tusker, thanked the emperor for his aid, and is taken aback when Hakuro walks in paying his respects. He leaves as Carula watches her brother go well and strong. A clumsy little girl, Sakia, breaks into Hakuro's place, stumbling into Hakuro's quarters accidentally. Luckily, he sends the soldiers off as Sakia introduces herself as Kuya's representative. He follows her to Kuya but doesn't go unnoticed. Sneaking behind a tree, she watches him and accidentally shrieks when Kuya suggests Hakuro take a wife from her country, getting herself caught. However, Kuya implies Sakia as a perfect candidate, making her redder than blood and reasoning that she's great in bed. That surely made everyone uncomfortable because the girl clearly doesn't know the meaning. However, there's much going on in Korea's land and they're engaged in a possible war. One evening, Hakuro astonishingly finds a collapse or bitten by Camus. Upon finding her, he sees Camus terrified and confused by her own actions. However, Aruru, being a good friend, never forsakes her. Meanwhile, the situation at Kunkamun is intensifying since the Kunkamun holds the frightening massive bots capable of swiping the troops clean in one go. Soon Hacker will falls in a tough spot when Lmu reaches him to mediate between them and Kunkmun, begging that they had no intention of attacking it. Despite Oratory mediating from Hakuro's side, Kunkmun rejects it, highlighting their blasphemous god Witsoul Namada, and continues to attack Ilimu. It turns out that it's not Kuya who is giving out the ruthless order to invade and kill in the land of Ilimu, but a troublesome fellow who Ankwe disturbed a bit. Kuya reaches out to Hakurul and, being a good friend, he earnestly tells her to seek much needed advice from those she loves like Sakia and Genjimaru, similar to how he seeks his from Araru. Although Queer returns determined, more states start attacking Kunakuma. Under immense stress, she finally falls to Huenko's manipulation, ordering bloodshed across lands. The Kunkamun bots start trampling through empires after empires, even taking down the empire of Ankami Amukai, where they are helped by a strange man D. Soon Kunkmun marches for Hakuro's door as well. Concerned for his people, Hakuro empties the capital as Oboro Banali, Kuro's Carula and others stand waiting until the formidable Bots show up in Tusker Moon. Bots arrive before Hakuro's force, wreaking havoc with the conditions at the front. Plummeting, Hakuro rides back to handle the situation himself. He appears before the Huanka, making him grow maniacally delighted at the sight. Attempting to pull him away, Hakuro retreats, but Huanko catches up, attacking him before Huanque can harm him. Aruru and Mikuru appear. All of sudden events take a dire turn when Huanko brutally hits Aurora to death. The sight of her is enough to make Hakuro tremble, shaking in devastation. He holds her clothes as Huanqua heartlessly stomps on him, all spectated by a horrified Aruru, who was searching for Aurora, unaware Huanque has triggered something far more formidable than the bot's. Black miasma erupts from under him as his bot starts crumpling like bread, and out emerges a massive creature. He pins Huanco's bot, bursting his head like a bubble as Huangua falls out wailing for his mommy. With the situation ending in such a twist of events, Hakuro wakes up in his quarters having another one of his nightmares. Upon Aru entering, he worriedly asks for Aurora, only to find her playing outside. Estranged Mundi has seen the events unfold, with Kuya lost in pressing the war forward. He seems to be planning for more chaos to come, and Genji Maru is aware of it. Meanwhile, Hakuro is confused at what had happened to him and how Aru is alive. He suffers visions of being in a lab-like place, seeing a test subject girl resembling Iro but named Mikoto, and a man with a similar mask to his name Hakuro as well. It's not long before Genjimaru stumbles, asking for help and allying with Hakuro. With him by his side, Hakuro decides to rescue the High Priest Oratori and Camus's father. First, one night as Aruru tends to Hakuro's wounds, he reminds her of the first time she cared for him, asking her to always be by his side. This makes her go quiet. She holds an unspoken secret and might have formed a pact with the creature Hakuro transformed into to save Aru's life. However, Oratori, being a priestess, knows all and honestly tells her to live as herself. Soon the men and Genjimaru return with the high priest. Now as a high priest, Oratori mediates and gathers the children of Witzel Namita to help against the bloodshed of Kunkumon. This time Hakuro marches with his troops towards Kunkumon, defeating the bots with Genjimaru's guidance. While fighting, Hakuro and Genjimaru are strangely teleported inside the castle, and before Kuya, she is still in her antics. However, after a clash of brute force, Hakuro manages to calm her. With Kuya fallen, the mysterious man D finally shows up together with his two minions, including the rabbit Huankua. Immediately Oratori recognizes him, a fellow philosopher Ankami Yamukai who had gone missing. D confronts Genjimaru for defying his pact, who has realized that Aruru holds a similar pact as well, making everyone else confused as to what they're talking about. As the situation intensifies, Oratori teleports everyone to safety, and Hakuro's beast once again starts pulsating. He transforms into his massive self, making poor Huinqua piss his pants, bringing him down for good. As Hakuro fights, Camus appears from behind a post asking D to stop, but the man summons a girl named Mutsumi, his daughter, and Camus transforms into a different girl, attacking Hakuro head on. Seeing the situation, Genjimaru sacrifices himself, causing D to withdraw and leave the land in flames as Hakuro, back to his normal self, carries an injured Tuya out. Finally, Oratori explains the confusion to Hakuro, clearing that a spirit of the Ankami Yamukai ancestor often reincarnates in their bodies, this time canvases so that it can be with the god. Witzel Namida D himself happens to be Witzalan Amida, and the beast within Hakuro is another manifestation of Witzel Namida. Sensing he'll be gone in this war, Hakuro asks Obura to succeed him if anything is to happen, and decides to set out alone to bring Camus back. But how can his trooper friends let their beloved leader go alone? Together they march to Ankama Yamukai under Oratori's guidance. Once they enter, they are immediately ambushed by unworldly attacking blobs as Camus, or should I say Mutsumi, leads them. Hakuro follows her, coming to a dead end, and is hit with another vision of the labs there. The doctor, referring to Hakuro as Iceman, allows him to escape with Mikoto. As the vision fades, Mutsumi attacks again. However, Aru calls out to Camus, making Mutsumi collapse in a struggle before they can pry Chemist back. D appears. Hakuro turns into the beastly creature, nullifying the pact with Ururu to save Ururu and setting them free. As D himself transforms, the two zooms into the sky, ready to clash, engaging in the final clash between the two versions of Witzel Namida. D and Akuro immerse in a frightening clash, hitting each other with full force. While clashing, D relentlessly tries to justify his acts of inciting wars as to be done in favor of his children, the followers of Witzel Namida. However, Hakuro denies accepting brazen bloodshed. Soon he realizes that the two of them are splits of the same body of the god Witzel Nemeda and decides to rejoin himself with D and ultimately end him as D charges, staving his armed hand into Hakuro's torso. Hakuro cleverly takes the hit, beginning to co-join with D's body, swooshing his blade arm at his neck and beheading the giant beast of D. Engulfed in a tornado of miasma, Hakuro stands solitary, joined with Witzel Nemeda's other half, his beastly self. Stands before Aruru and Uhuru as the poor girls cry for him. Once Camus is back, he asks Oratori to seal him away, wishing to put an end to the mayhem. Oratori chants as the Hakuro's friends charge, slashing, attacking and assailing Hakuro's beast as it flashes and is sent to the beyond. Before Hakuro's soul goes along, he says his last words to each and every one of his friends, especially Aruru, who at last confesses her love for him. Before he walks away running towards him, she engulfs Hakuro, giving him their first and last goodbye kiss. With Hakuro gone, Oboro takes the throne of Tusker and the country returns to its peace.